Hey, there we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be where you are out there. Welcome back to the live stream. My name is Jeff Fritz, and today is March 12th, 2020. We're not going to write any code today, actually. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about a little bit of career development. I want to get in and talk a little bit about health technology, which is a topic that's on so many of our minds. We've been thinking about nothing but health for the past year, but I've got a couple friends joining me here today so that we can have a little bit of fun about this. Let me say hello to the folks that are over there in the chat room. Let's welcome in the chat room. There they are. Spectari69 is here. Dee Walsh. Gee, I wonder why she's here. M. Pulowski, good morning to see you. Sinclair Nader, good morning to you. Wire Static, as someone who works in healthcare tech, you're curious about this stream and glad you don't have any meetings? Well, guess what? We're going to be hanging out. We're going to be chatting. I hope you can put us on in the background, even if you have something to do and listen on your phone. That's great. And hang out and participate. We're going to take your questions and chat a little bit about the topic. I think I have that Dee Walsh around here somewhere. Let me go see if I can find her. I think she's right over here, just over on this side. Let me see. Just on the other side of this hill. Oh, drat. The effect didn't work. Darn it. I worked this out so hard. There she is. There's the Dee Walsh right over there. Hello. So good to see you. So we got you zoomed in a little bit there. Let me see if I can zoom you back out. My goodness.
I'm bigger, larger than life.
Larger than life, Dee. I mean, my goodness. What more do you really want? How are you, my friend?
Awesome. I'm so glad you can do this.
Oh my gosh.
Again.
So much fun.
Not sure if you've mentioned this is also sponsored by the Microsoft Alumni Network. They're the ones who are bringing this to us today, and we have a bunch of stuff we want to talk about with regard to that as well.
Okay, absolutely. And there's something to be said about alumni networks, whether it's at a university or it's a place of employment, and being able to stay connected, because gosh, so many folks go on to do other cool things, and to be able to reconnect and help each other afterwards, after you leave a place of employment or university. Great stuff.
Yeah, and Microsoft Alumni Network is actually pretty unique. There's nothing quite as big as that out there. It's a cool organization, and there are lots of benefits, especially for technical folks, that you get a Visual Studio Enterprise monthly subscription, which, as you know, is quite a costly thing. So that's
a
one of
valuable
the most
thing.
Cool benefits of the program, among other things.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I hope I can hang on to my subscriptions after I depart Microsoft. If I depart Microsoft, when I depart Microsoft, it's something like that.
It could happen someday. Well, when it does, I'll hook you up.
There we go. Thank you. We have a guest to join us today to talk a little bit about health tech, about career growth, and taking your career beyond where you are now. Do you want to introduce Sean?
You bet. Has Sean joined us yet? Sean
he's
Nolan.
here. I can bring him in here. Let me bring him in.
All right.
He's right over. There he is. Hello.
Yo.
Sean Nolan in the bedroom.
Yes.
Well, I'll let Sean talk more about his background in a minute, but I knew Sean from Microsoft. If you work for Microsoft for any length of time, you probably ran into him. Super smart guy, did such amazing work for us he's more on the architecture side, and so he's got a lot of cool things. Most recently, he's been working in health tech, and so I thought that would be this is our first Microsoft Alumni Network Tech Talk, and the first guy to come to mind was Sean, just because he has been visionary for a long time about many different topics, but health tech being one that's sorry, my mom is in the back. This is what happens when you work from home. You have your mom in the background with the phone. Anyway, so sorry about that.
Okay.
Can you leave, Mom?
We're doing a thing
Sorry
here.
about that.
And
So,
you leave mom. It's like my
John,
favorite
why
thing.
don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. So, best thing about Alumni back in the day was free company store access. I was actually just cleaning out my closets, and I had like 25 boxes of Enterprise NT, this, that, all with my little employee, like, don't sell this or we'll kill you sticker on it, which I don't know if they still do.
They do. They do.
So, so I don't know. I've had 3 stints at Microsoft, if you count my co-op, which was back in '89, but really started up in '91 on DOSWorks, which loaded up in the ROM of most computers back in the day. Was a ton of fun and actually one of the best debugging teams I ever knew. Left in the middle of the 90s, right after Win95, did some stuff. Went back in '06, so just about 10 years later, almost to the day. And then to start health stuff with an old friend, Peter Newport, who was an OS2 guy back forever ago as well. And we tried to do a lot of things, and we learned that it is really freaking hard to do good things in healthcare with technology. But it was super fun, and we learned a ton, and landed me as I left the second time in 2014 at a biotech over on East Lake on Lake Union called Adaptive Biotechnologies. And we built basically tests and therapeutics to help people with various stuff all focused around the immune system. And I'd love to chat about that. It was a remarkable sort of, confluence of software, which I knew how to do, and biology, which I knew nothing about, but sort of came together to do some pretty amazing stuff.
And it's amazing how many different people from different backgrounds have come together and work at Microsoft. And when you leave, the different places that folks go to, medical, financial, pharmaceutical, transportation, these different places that folks get into and get out of, and are able to build better products for Microsoft, and then take those learnings and do something even better afterwards. Really cool stuff.
And what was really was particularly neat about it, Adaptive, was a big part of our problem was machine learning stuff, as so much stuff is these days, trying to understand what various cells in your body were doing. And we were able to actually go drive right back across the bridge and talk to Peter Lee and his team, and do, there's actually today, I think there's about a dozen folks at Microsoft Research working all day with Adaptive on those problems. And so that kind of connectivity, when we decided we wanted to do that, right, we kind of went out and we talked to Google folks. We had some alumni from Adaptive there. We talked to Amazon folks. We talked to Watson folks, which, please. But, but it was kind of a no-brainer at the end of the day, because now it's all remote, whatever, but we drove back and forth. We sat in each other's office. They were able to get some incredible data to work against. And we actually just released, I keep saying I quit about a month ago, but released a test for COVID based on that work. So the very first sort of application of artificial intelligence and machine learning against the immune system deployed and approved by the FDA, which is pretty cool.
Okay. I want to hear more about that, but there's a couple of comments and questions here in the chat room that I want to make sure that we hear from. I'm going to start here with Cyber Shura. Hello from your drugstore.com alumni in Derpel-Sig.
Yeah, fantastic.
All right. And
the name I haven't seen in many years.
Wire Static says, I'm so glad family and pets show up in streams and video chats. Just a reminder that we're not all some productive robots. Turn coffee into code. I thought it was you turned pizza into code. We've got some other alumni folks here. There's, is that LC Leeton? Or Elk Leeton? I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Alumni, 20 years at Microsoft. Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us for this. And Earth Thing says, Microsoft alumni benefits are so worth it. And we've also got... We've got Mac Trier here from Frankfurt. Welcome in. So good to see you. Um,
Everybody do a roll call. If you're out there, tell us who you are.
yeah, right. And here, Werner's Twitch says, after knowing Dee Dee for 30 years, this is how I meet her mom.
Is that Mike Werner?
I don't know.
Come on, tell us.
Let us know. Let us know there in the chat. We're keeping an eye on things. We want to know a little bit more and have some fun chatting with you. And I absolutely want to hear about how, Sean, how you were detecting COVID. Mike, you in the house. Mike, we in the house. Look at this.
Oh, okay. It is Mike
there
Werner. Since we all have our email names or our identity.
Somebody took mine at Microsoft finally. It was extraordinarily bitter. Like 10 years after I left, I recycled it.
Oh, really? What was your email name?
It was Seanno, Seanno, which you can still basically log into any site on the web using my Microsoft email address.
Well, I still work with Tom Button, and his was Tomb.
I wanted Fritz at Microsoft.com. I couldn't get that. So what I did,
really?
there's a trick that I learned. You can create a mailing list and put just yourself on that mailing list. So nice. I'm C# Fritz at Microsoft.com as well. Very nice. I've got that just everywhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Tricking that out. We've got a couple more folks that are saying hello here, and then we'll get back into our questions. Is it a new PC 7181 Microsoft alumni from the UK? And is this Shadow 9113 recent Microsoft alumni agreed the network benefits are already paying off, this chat included? And do
they still do healthcare benefits too? That was also fantastic.
D. Overton, UK alumni, first time visiting on Twitch. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And I do the whole live coding thing here during the week, not just interview and discussion here. I'm actually writing code live as people watch me and criticize me. I know it's it can be a little tricky. I'm just going to grab one or two more here.
It looks like John Brown's here.
I didn't see. There he is. Yeah, John Brown's there. But this is his B India Zen Bindia. 16 years at Microsoft. Dee Dee interviewed me for a Visual Studio role in 2004. Oh my goodness.
That's awesome.
Cyralash says, almost feel like I'm the only non-alumni here. It's okay. Everybody's welcome. That's great. And this is Chris Evansbean. You love Twitch, so much fun to be with us. Well, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you joining us wherever you might be.
Chris works for the Microsoft Alumni Network, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Cool. Thank you so much. I'll go through two more. G Morton76, first time on Twitch. Welcome in. I hope you have a good time. There's a bunch of emotes here for folks that are subscribers. If you want to go through that, I think I have a bunch set up on Better Twitch TV. BTTV is the extension you can install. You can get fun there. And there's John Brown. I know that guy. Good to see you. Susan Cameron is here. My gosh, I'm making with the clicking as fast as I can, Dee Dee. There's so many. So 15 years at Microsoft. You're loving the network. What did you do? I don't have the alerts turned on. Look at this. 20 gift subs going out to folks in the channel. Thank you so much. And Sean, for every time that somebody subscribes or cheers in the channel to show their support, we make donations to various tech charities. This quarter, I'm making donations to the Raspberry Pi Foundation, helping their efforts to make little tech hardware. Cheap, easy, inexpensive, not cheap. It's not cheap. It's inexpensive, easy for folks to get their hands on. And they also run Coder Dojo training facilities everywhere in the world. We're going to make 20 donations, and the folks at Microsoft match those donations 1-to-1, and we're going to help support folks learn about technology. Thank you so much. Appreciate those 20 gift subs. Let me see. In Charleston, Jeff So in Charleston says Trail 77S. Former map point, now in biotech. So let's talk about biotech. Right now that we've gone through it, introduced everybody. My goodness. So you were able to build some tests that are able to detect COVID. Can you walk us through that process? How did you get from software to COVID?
Well, so it was a big ramp, I guess.
I mean, it's not on a Bing map. I can't just say go from here Redmond to COVID.
Well, I'd gotten interested in health. We'd done some stuff all around health policy and that kind of stuff back in Obama days when we were with Microsoft, but never really got into the science of it. I mean, I was a high school bio B minus kind of guy, but met these two brothers, Chad and Harlan Robbins, and Harlan was a researcher at the Hutch for years and had sort of figured this thing out, this particular observation, which was, well, we can use a combination of something called multiplex PCR and the next generation sequencing and sort of the confluence of some technologies to create this picture of kind of what your adaptive immune system is doing. So your adaptive immune system, right, your body's kind of constantly making these random, call it receptor cells. So T cells and B cells with these receptors on them, which are little proteins of random shapes. They go out in your bloodstream. And if they happen to sort of very physically match up with an antigen, so a virus or whatever, they kind of light up, they start your body fighting, and then they remember, oh, that one worked, I'm going to keep that around, and they go. And so these little receptors are sequences of DNA, and Harlan was able to sort of catalog all of them that were in your body at one point in time. And so cool, really interesting, but nobody knew what they meant. Like, it's a random string of DNA. It's a really hard problem to figure out what's that going to match to. Nobody knows how to really do that. And so they said, this seems really, really compelling, but we know we're going to need software, machine learning, those kind of things to be able to actually figure out what's going on inside. And so they went looking for software folks, and I happened to be bumming around at the time. And, I was like, super cool, don't know squat, thanks for the coffee. But we eventually sort of decided to give it a try and built up from basically about 3 of us who were writing software to, I don't know, now they got 50 or 60, which is, not a ton, but for the biotech space, the kind of quality we were able to pull out of Microsoft and those folks was pretty remarkable. And so we basically sat down and said, well, what are the patterns in here and what can we start to see? And first thing we looked at was, hey, take some really simple viruses like one called CMV or cyclomegalovirus, which sort of conveniently isn't really bad for you, but half the population has. So we're able to go and collect a whole bunch of blood and build these training sets of people who have CMV and people who don't have CMV. And we basically just started throwing these sequences at models and saying, well, what do we see? And very quickly it became clear that the knowledge about your ability to resist CMV is in that data set. We still can't say, oh, it's that one or it's this one, but we know it's there and we're able to start to make predictions based on it. And so, the place where we want to take that, which is unbelievably cool and kind of sounds almost silly, is that one picture that we take is all of the immune cells in your body. And so it doesn't just know about CMV, it knows about literally everything your body knows how to fight.
Okay.
And so the 10-year goal here is tricorder. The 10-year goal is take that one, snapshot of blood and say, oh yeah, cancer's coming, your chickenpox vaccine's fine, oops, you got COVID at some point, and those kind of things. And it just so happened that, this sort of relatively critical global need came up last year. And we had been working and still are working on, we're talking about Lyme disease and celiac as some of the early really indications we're going to hit, but COVID became really important. And so got working on that. And within just a few months, we're able to tune models good enough to make it happen.
So, I mean, okay. And being able to detect, do the machine learning, and really analyze this data. I mean, that's stuff that makes sense. We can do now. But when you hint at, right, let's build the Star Trek tricorder. Let's
Yeah.
get folks there where you have a handheld device. I mean, we already have, everybody's carrying a handheld supercomputer. It's got more computing power than the space shuttle ever had.
Yep.
And why not run machine learning on it against a medical
Well, I mean, and
sample?
that's the thing that was actually pretty cool to see. And that's why when I'm trying to recruit folks and pull them out of sort of software jobs to do this, on the one hand, just the mission's pretty compelling for this stuff. But if people are trying, they're worried. They're like, well, do these skills really, translate? Am I really going to be able to find? And yeah, there's a science story here, and knowing the science matters a lot. But as you point out, it's an operational problem too. It takes a couple days to do this chemistry, and then we run up in Azure, big freaking honky machines, and it still takes about 18 hours just to do the math on one of these samples, right? But to get that onto your phone, to get those into those systems, it's just software hard work.
Yeah.
And I've been amazed and thrilled that we've been able to pull people from all different fields, and actually been a strength for us, because sort of and I don't know, hopefully not too many biotech folks on the line, but the dirty secret is that software in biotech's kind of janky. It's kind of like a bunch of PhDs who kind of figured out how to use Perl once upon a time. And so bringing in actual, people who are engineers for their lives, and that's their talent, was pretty transformative to the place. It was awesome.
And there's a couple things there to even go in a little further, right? We're talking about 18 hours to do that processing in year 2021 hours, right? I mean, yes. we see leap aheads that happen. We see Moore's law still happening, just in different ways, right? But when we see that processing power double so quickly, and you can throw things on the cloud, what's 18 hours today? Is it going to be 10 hours next year? Is it going to be 6 hours the year after that? Yeah. Right? Are we 10 years from saying, you know what? Yeah, it's a minute handheld tricorder, and you've got it. You've got everything sequenced. That's huge stuff. There's
I believe it. Yeah. The funny thing about it is there's actually competing Moore's law too, which is that the sequencing machines are doubling the amount of data they spit out on a pretty regular basis. So we're fighting.
Oh, wow.
What when I started in 14, a run off these machines was maybe 500 megs of raw data, became 5 gigs, now becomes 500 gigs off of every run of the machine. And so it's pretty incredible to watch, as you see, these two forces, and they're fighting, and they the compute's winning, but it's an interesting struggle.
Oh my gosh, yes. So there was another question that came up here, and I want to make sure that I go to this from Sue's QP here, and asking about wrist-based continuous blood glucose. Let's look at this comment here. Interesting to hear about how imminent wrist-based continuous blood glucose monitoring devices are for general use. I'm aware of current technologies that have a device attached on arm or torso with a phone app. That sounds like it's in the same space software-wise.
It's been a while since I got to play with those. Back at Microsoft, we had a consumer health service, and a big part of what we were trying to do was help people measure stuff in their homes and then get it to their docs. Because that's, as so many things in healthcare, are a stupidly complicated process right now. And those devices are remarkable. It's funny, I used to walk around Microsoft with scars because I would be testing my fingers. Everybody pokes their fingers for glucose. I don't have diabetes, but every one of my fingers was calloused. My Desney Tan over in MSR was doing hydration work with devices, and he had little octopus.
Awesome stuff. Awesome. I'm looking through here. Oh, I lost audio there for a second. My apologies. There's a couple other comments that have been coming through. I see people talking about Fortran. Hey, look at this. You get a bunch of former Microsoft folks together, and we start talking about. Remember when we talked about? Remember, did Visual Fortran become VB? Somebody's asking. No, come on now. Are you kidding? Look at this.
That's a good one.
Yeah, right. Come on.
I still miss coding in P code. P code was my favorite.
Oh, don't do that to me. Are you kidding? So, no, I know what happened there, chat room with the audio. My apologies. We'll get that. We'll have that corrected going forward. It's okay.
Yeah, that's actually the other thing when you talk about some of this old stuff and the compute and the speed. It takes 18 hours because it's hard, but also because big chunks of that code were written 10 years ago by some rando PhD, and it works and it does its job, and we keep using it because it does, and when you get into these things where the FDA is involved in stuff, it is a challenge to innovate some of these things because they approve it and then it kind of gets burned in stone. Now, getting better at that, but it's something we think about a lot.
What is, what's the oldest crap you've seen out there?
Well, so the aluminum machines themselves that are actually, these incredible state-of-the-art machines. They run, for the operators, they have a beautiful Windows embedded interface. It's all this great stuff. But they spit out files, and if you actually want to use those files, they basically spit out image files. They're all that software came from astronomy originally. They're taking top-down pictures of fluorescing cells and then processing all those into something useful. And the code that translates those images into actual DNA strings is the freaking worst. It's basically an exe that nobody has the software for, the source for. And so you just keep it around and you run it and you don't ask a lot of questions and you move on because nobody's getting back if you lose that one.
I know, it's so funny. So much of the time we talk about technology and how cool it is, but no one talks about the fact that you're stuck with so much old crap and you just can't, you just have to keep using what works.
With healthcare, we spent years trying to just have people stop using their fax machine, and fax machines still most of the healthcare messages sent today.
Yeah, I know.
What's funny is they've invested in software to receive the fax, OCR the fax, and there are these huge machines to do that. But the actual send just can't go away. I don't know why.
Okay, so one of the first jobs that I had, coming out of college, I was working for a pharmaceutical company. And exactly to your point, Sean, they were hooked on fax machines for communicating with all the testing facilities that they had out there. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to be able to do a mail merge and have it automatically fax all of these facilities and I'm like, are you kidding? So I wrote a piece of software that was effectively a printer that would go through and start calling for each sheet that was generated and send faxes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And doubles as a war dialer.
Right. Yes, effectively. Right? So, I mean, it's crazy to me that here's the folks that are literally saving our lives. They're on the front lines. They should have the best of the best medical technology, and they're struggling with fax machines.
Oh, yeah. I think most people, I guess, I learned this government lesson at some point, and it was an eye opener for me when we were working with the Obama administration back at Microsoft, trying to say, how are we going to start doing this? Our interest in it was consumers and moms and that stuff, but it was all the same kind of conversations. And it turns out that there's as much money as we spend in taxes, there's not a lot of people that they apply to these kind of problems. And so what they do is they invite in companies to help, and some of those companies are really doing their best to help. Some of those companies are trying to keep things the way they are. And they literally will hire people who sit on these committees and kind of say why nothing will work, and get paid for that. And it's sort of a real bummer, but it's a little hard to see how you kind of break it, because they are the people who the government are able to come in and get help. And when we were doing, we brought a bunch of those folks to Microsoft, and they were shell shocked because they come into one of our rooms and we're talking. And so we actually had a reasonable Microsoft presence because of the location. And, people just started saying, well, no, that's stupid. We shouldn't do that. Here's this thing. What if we did this? What if we did this? And literally it took us about 3 days of sort of committee conversation to realize that secure mail actually was a thing that kind of worked today, and we kind of have, and maybe you should just kind of use that. And that was considered revolutionary, which is kind of nuts. But at the same time, it's kind of high stakes, high reward on this, that, if you screw it up, people kind of die, and that's kind of bad. So you don't want to,
death is kind of a bummer.
Built-in conservatism to it that's pretty tough.
Death is, that's a bug that you don't want in your software. Not gonna lie. There's a couple of good questions that are coming in here. Let me make sure I go back and bring one up here. This is from Les J3. I think this is a pretty good question you can help us out with. Hey, Sean, what's your advice for software companies that are looking to get FDA approval?
That seems like a simple question.
I'll tell you what's funny is, the FDA was the one organization I don't love working with, although they do yeoman's work. But it's funny story about it is the CEO who hired me at Adaptive. I asked him I said, the only thing I don't want to do is go to the FDA. And he said, no problem. We're never going to the FDA. 3 months later, it started. But, the tough thing is that for software, is that a bunch of regulations got written in the 70s. And as people do, they represent the way software was built in the 70s. And even worse, they're kind of represent the way physical things are made, in factories with dies and that kind of stuff. And so waterfall is pretty well baked in to the FDA software approval process. You really need to sort of show this is what we plan to build in excruciating detail, and then we went and we built that thing, and we didn't change what we thought it was going to be, and then we tested exactly that thing. And that kind of story is really important. Everybody, including the FDA, realizes that that's sort of broken today, but it's hard because laws are laws. And so what we did is we spent just a ton of time talking to those folks. We tried consultants and we tried a few different things, but we ended up by ourselves customizing Jira pretty heavily to try to create, and we found where are the places where change is going to happen, how do they need to be documented. And honestly, it was a probably 3-year process testing it out, going to the FDA saying, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And eventually we got to something that's kind of, I would say, half and half. It's certainly not agile the way most people think about agile today, but it gives us enough flexibility to innovate. And knowing that the folks at the agency want that to work is a huge help. And the next sort of big hurdle for that world is machine learning, because these models are kind of black boxes, and black boxes are not something that the agency is very comfortable with. There may be okay that you can clinically trial and prove this, but then never change it, never retrain it, never do anything with it. And of course, that's kind of silly. So the dialogue with the agency itself, and not hiring a bunch of consultants who have been doing it for 30 years, those are probably the two best things you can do.
Oh my goodness. Cyberlash makes a good point here. You got to love those compliance reasons from the FDA for keeping faxes around. It blows my mind that they want it to be a black box. They want it to be locked down, and retraining models, machine learning that's a real almost culture change that we got to create in the FDA, so that they can start getting into this next generation of software. It is critical. If you look at when we talk about this tricorder, it's really 10 models on top of the same data, right? But the FDA process, as an example, is if you want approval, you start at
I collected some blood, I did this, I moved it all the way through the system. And so where all logic would tell you, once you kind of, lock down that chemistry process, you really it ought to be a software only problem, right? You can keep kind of doing that forever. And even that is just scary to those folks. And so I think we'll see, hopefully the course of the next 10 years, the benefits are now so obvious, not just with what we're doing, but all over the place, that it's sort of, I think, will force the issue, and hopefully it won't stick around this way for too long.
I can't wait to hear how they decide to put the bureaucracy around machine learning models and retraining and the data that comes in that gets tuned and loaded in there. My goodness. I want to pause for a second. G. Morton 76 has a question here for you, Sean, about how much Azure power you were using for some of your calculations there to go through and evaluate some of those tests.
It's a pretty big bill. It's not, it's surprisingly not as big as you might think. It's, I talked about 18 hours. That's like one block computation for a test, right? And even if you multiply that times 100,000 tests, you're still not really looking at the scales of, weblog traffic for search and, facial recognition streams and those kind of things. So it's big. I would say we're in the top, 3 or 4% probably. But it's certainly not the 1%. And that's kind of nice because it allows us some time to tune, and it provides us some incredible opportunities. So, that old Perl code, they're going to have to break it apart. They're going to have to figure out how to get it done. But it's not so incredibly urgent that it's not cost effective. They can drive a profit today, doing a lot in Azure, a lot with, truth be told, just a heck of a lot of Kubernetes and a heck of a lot of containers and a heck of a lot of things that are sort of bounded within VMs and Docker, because that's the kind of, controlled environment that you really need for that stuff. Starting to do more with sort of the services themselves and the event grid and those kind of things. But it's a lot of just big horsepower in the cloud.
And that 18 hours is just one patient's one set of tests.
Yes, that's correct.
So taking those next steps, it's a little bit tricky. Thomas, is it Thomas S. Ligon? Comments here that Microsoft runs highly automated data centers and that operations depend on exactly those kinds of rules, and certifications can be difficult. Absolutely. And it's great that we're able to see those processes and work with standards bodies to make sure that everybody benefits. Let's not hamstring some of our innovation here. Wire static.
And that's a problem. What was a problem 5 years ago in the cloud is now a huge benefit in the cloud, right? Because they turn it. Certainly, you still have a lot of work to do, but you get SOX compliance. You get a ton of support by being up there that you didn't used to have, and they used to freak out at the cloud, and now they say thank you.
So, Dee, I want to open up. We're going to be doing a series of these types of discussions and interviews. I wanted to put together a series of questions that we made sure we asked all of our alumni friends when they join us for these types of discussions. And simple things that folks that are currently working at Microsoft can relate to, folks that used to work at Microsoft can relate to. So I just want to drop 2 or 3 questions real quick here that we're just going to ask all the folks that come through. And Dee, I want to hear your responses to these also. What building did you work in when you were on campus?
You go first, Dee.
Holy crap! What build? I mean, what? I'm trying to think of what building I didn't work in. I think I started in building 9 because I was kind of 91, 92. I don't even remember now. And I worked in all of them, but it was cool because I was in developer. And it seemed like we always opened up the new buildings. So when 25 was new, and when 16 and 17, I guess 16 and 17 and 18 came first. And so anyway, I think I worked in all of them.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I was right next door in 10, the big X buildings.
Yeah.
I was lucky that in my first office, I could look out and watch Simone land his helicopter on the soccer field.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That was always a big day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, remember the double X buildings, and they were so confusing that my first week, to go to the bathroom, I would have to go to the reception area to get back to my office because I would get so confused.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I was getting confused in 9 and 10 and getting around those. And I'm only on campus a couple times a year. And of course, I haven't been on campus in a year now. But since I'm over on the other coast, a little bit tricky for me to find my way around there. So, second question I want to ask all the folks that join us is, what do you miss most from working on campus?
You know what I miss most, just from Microsoft, is Microsoft matching.
That's a good one.
That was probably the hardest thing to give up, is the ability to, double every donation. That was the hardest thing. I mean, obviously the people, but I still see the people, and really Microsoft Alumni Association, they've created a new social opportunities, like a social platform, and boy, it's nice. You get to see everyone and interact with them. So Alumni Network makes it easy to see everyone, but matching. But
that's pretty
the
good.
Good thing is Microsoft Alumni Association, just put another plug in, about a couple of times a year they do matching.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think, Sean? What do you miss?
Well, mine seems super selfish now that Dee Dee went and did the match thing here, but I miss having, like, as a developer, folks that would come fix every frickin' hardware problem I ever had within 30 seconds. Now when like my stuff breaks, I have to figure out how to fix it, and it sucks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We've got a couple Microsoft friends here in chat. Let's go to some of their responses, what buildings they were working in. John Brown, he worked in building 4. That was the highest number building at the time when he started. John, you're showing your age here, my friend. And Suze says the first of many buildings was the one next to the Burgermeister. We would fax lunch orders over here. Suze, you're getting into my final question that I want to ask all of our friends that join us here. John mentions that working in building 4, he used to run into Bill G in the men's room. Okay, sorry. That's a man foul. You run into somebody in the men's room, you don't talk, do your business, and get out. And while you're in there, don't talk on your phone. If you're talking on your phone, or I hear your phone ring when you're in the men's room, you're out. Get out of here. What are you doing?
The good news is, when John Brown was running into Bill G in the men's room, there was no phones back, mobile phones back then.
Okay. No, that's a while ago. And Sean, you were saying about cleaning out your office, and you found all these things. I cleaned out my office here. I've been converting my home office into more of a studio, and you wouldn't believe the number of Windows phones I found. G. Morton used to work at Ireland Microsoft. Very cool. And
spent a lot of time working on localization with those folks.
Yeah, that was a great.
Missing the foosball tables. Yeah. Chris
a lot
Evans.
Of good used foos tables on the market.
Bet.
Does anybody remember the old server boneyard?
Wow. A server boneyard? Really? Do tell.
Boneyard was where all old tech went.
Oh, the actual server named Boneyard. Absolutely. I forgot about that.
Yeah, remember, if you wanted to get VB3, go up to Boneyard. You want to get
DOS Works.
Yep. You want to get Boneyard was I don't know. I wonder if they Fritz, you'll have to tell us if you can find Boneyard anywhere there.
I'll have to look. And next time I get back out to campus. A couple more comments here I'll run through, and then we'll get to the last question I want to make sure that we ask our friends here. Jeremy Sinclair wants to pour one out for Windows Phone. Yeah. Sean, you did a little bit of work with Windows Phone. Or it was Windows Marketplace.
I didn't actually work on Windows Phone. I was consulting with Microsoft during the heavy days of Windows Phone, and my Android phone was a source of much scorn in meetings, which was super fun, actually. I would just leave it out for execs to pick at.
Okay, okay. Running Free used to work at University Village before they closed last year. Yeah, there's another group of buildings. And here, this is Earth Thing worked in Pioneer Square in Seattle. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's
Ooh.
another cool location. But the Alexia Don Twitch is hinting at the third question I want to make sure we ask everybody, the food court. Okay, here we go. What was the best place to eat on campus? Your favorite place to eat on campus? Now, when I started at Microsoft, we were in building 43, and I was always going across the way to 42 for a Cafe 42, and I got a taste in me for 42. Now we moved over to 18, and everybody likes going to building 16, Cafe 16 for it. Look at this. I'm already seeing folks saying building 33, Red West. Look at this coming through here. So, Dee Dee, what was the best place to eat on campus for you?
You know, I can't. I am a pig, remember? So, like,
What?
when Building 25 first opened, I don't remember if anyone was here, but they had an ice cream setup. You know, they had like it was almost like a Baskin Robbins, so you could get milkshake. So if I have, first choice, I will just only eat ice cream, and so I could do that in Building 25.
I thought there was a thing. I thought there was a thing for donuts there.
Oh, there you go.
No.
Well, yeah, donuts. Building 9 had good donuts.
Okay, Building 9. Yeah, Building 9. I've liked the one or two times I've been there. Sean, what about you? What was your favorite place to eat when you were on campus?
I'm kind of like with Dee Dee. I eat crap, so I'll eat anything. But I do remember that, it probably in '92 or '3, they started realizing that a bunch of the college hires started to have kids, right? And I was one of those. And so they wanted to keep us in the office, and they did family dinner nights. And I could take my like 2 and 3-year-old kids to have dinner and then go home, and I'd keep working. And they remember that super well as like the best.
Okay. Okay, there's something to be said about that.
My son still claims that, like, I think it was Building 9, like, has like the best steak ever made, which clearly is false, right? So I don't know, but when you remember who you're to, they lock in there.
Let's go to some of our alumni friends here in chat and see their responses here. Corwin of Amber says, best place to eat depends on the time frame. All right, what do you got there, Corwin? Give us a little bit more information. Chris Evans Bean says, didn't we take the bus to the best food whenever something new popped up? Yes, I hear that from friends on campus all the time, that my gosh, I feel like there should be a ongoing website or a Teams channel that says, here's what we think of the different places to eat. Patty Julia, I lived on the road with corporate events. Seeing is believing. Windows 3.0 New York launch event and roadshow in 12 cities. First Microsoft Developer Conference at Washington Conference. Introduced Visual Basic. That's great, Patty. Thank you so much for chiming in. Here we go. Somebody in my own heart here. Mac Trier says, 42 rules. John Howie's restaurant was great as well. Earth Thing.
Allie Spain reminded us of Dixie's.
I was just about
to.
Yes. Spoiler, I'm coming to that one next.
Sorry, go.
Love the mailing list that told you when there was leftover food from some meeting. That's a corporate thing that you find everywhere. But there was a time when I interned at the same place that my father was at, and he's working systems administration, and I'm the kid carrying desktop PCs around, and my father could smell out leftover cake a building and a half away. All of a sudden, my dad would go running. Dad, where are you going? There's cake over there on the 4th floor. And off he'd go. Didn't matter what department it was.
Yeah, that's a gift.
Oh my goodness. Being able to. So yeah, Allie Spain pointing out, look, Dixie's.
Meet the man.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember if I've been there.
And it's closed now, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
It did.
Red West Cafeteria had a good place to sit outside in the summer. I had I gotta tell you, sitting outside for lunch is always a great thing, and the cafes on campus are really nice like that. E 35 for EBC. I'm just going to read through some of these. My goodness. Lots of great comments here. The Italian Quarter, Yelp for the best campus food. Gosh, if only there was technology that we could use to build something like that. Right?
I think it all sounds way better a year after not ever having it.
Right? Yeah.
Going to the fridge and eating whatever, 4-month-old crap's in there.
Yeah. So, I work with a bunch of folks that we end up leaving campus and going to Chipotle or to one of the burrito places. I'm like, whatever. All right, that's a thing. So I want to get in, and I do want to ask about career advancement. We've got a lot of folks that watch. They're younger in their careers. We got folks that have left Microsoft. They're going and they're advancing their careers other places, and we've got some folks watching that are still with Microsoft. Sean, what tips could you give to folks about how you advanced your career and made more out of your time with Microsoft?
I mean, the like cynical answer to that question is that the skip out of Microsoft and come back and skip a few levels and reviews is very real.
Okay. All right.
But more seriously, I think the thing that for me, I left Microsoft the first time because while I will do it, I don't love managing people. And there was really nowhere for a career to go in 95, 96 as an IC technical person. I mean, there were a few, but mostly you were just pushed up into leads and management roles. And so I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go do that on my own. And what I think I benefited more out of that than anything else was Microsoft really is kind of half a career, right? It is a bubble like no bubble I could have ever imagined when I was inside it. And I talked about like just people to fix your PC, people, to budget for you, people to do all these things. I really, really love when folks, I learned how to write software better at Microsoft than I would have anywhere in the world, no question, period, hands down. Learn to debug, learn to do all that stuff, and it was the best. But if I hadn't left, I think I would not have had nearly the kind of satisfying career I ended up with. So I recommend everybody does it. It's not like, we're lucky to be gifted into a skill set that is probably the most in demand in the universe. So nobody's going to go hungry if they go out and come back. And it was the best choice I ever made.
Okay. Didi, do you have any advice for some of the young folks that might be watching and are looking to advance their careers besides leave and come back? There's definitely something to be said, though, about getting experience and taking it to other places. And yeah, you're going to be able to jump a level or two. But
yeah, the one thing that worked really well for me, among the many, there's so many different things that you can do. But one thing that I set a goal early on was to meet as many people as I could. And it turns out that if you ask people for a 15-minute coffee, not 30 minutes, not an hour, but for 15 minutes, you will rarely get turned down at any level, and so I feel like my network, building that network of people, made such a difference for me and made a difference in every meeting I go to where you're trying to sell in or get some kind of consensus. So if I set a goal my entire time at Microsoft, and I didn't always accomplish it, but it was one new person a week. And and I would say I probably did 2 per month.
Okay.
But I generally did about 1 or 2 a month, and people way outside of my what was initially my posse, and it made a huge difference to me.
Yeah, it turns out it's a really small community here. You see those same people again and again and again, and you are right, it pays off big time, especially if you're not a jerk.
Hey, Julia Lucen, I'm gonna call for coffee, Julia. Hey, Would you believe? Chris has a link for us here. Let me share my screen. Would you believe? Look at this. Look at this. Let me see. Get the screen share coming through. And it's going to take its good old time loading, isn't it? Come on. I know you're there. Did it share my screen?
Not yet.
It's like I don't know how to do this.
I know, right? Have you ever shared your screen before?
Gosh, I don't think I have. Do I know how to do this? No, it's not sharing my screen. Oh my gosh. Skype, you're not sharing my screen here.
Come on, Skype.
All right, fine. We're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. I'm just going to...
We're going to do pantomime, right? Okay,
pantomime.
Sean, you be Dean, and I'll be LJ. And
oh my God.
I like call tech support.
There we go. There. Now I got it. Now we got this. Would you believe this? Look. Dixie's Barbecue has a Wikipedia page all about the barbecue place that Microsoft folks used to go to. Look at this. That's pretty cool. Okay.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
What happens when nerds like a barbecue place? It gets a Wikipedia page.
Yeah. Right. So, oh my goodness. All right. Back over here. So that's great advice. I love just reach out and talk to folks, introduce yourself, meet other folks. The technical community is it's amazing how small it is. There's hundreds of thousands of people, but you run into the same people again and again. Let me grab that. I see a couple more comments coming in here that I want to make sure we address. Running Free points out there is a in the area of COVID, there's a LinkedIn page for Microsoft alumni. Awesome. Really cool stuff. Ali Spain has a link here for us that is the rehire portal. Make sure you click through there.
Ali Spain, it runs the Microsoft Alumni Network.
We need a picture for Ali there so we can all say hello and we can recognize Ali. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ali. That's great stuff. You're surprised that that Dixie's Barbecue survived the Wikipedia relevancy police. Oh my goodness.
I know, right?
So,
well,
go ahead.
Oh, well, think of how many Microsoft and ex-Microsoft. It's a large enough community. You'd think it could kind of keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go to here's somebody asking a question. This is MDE Bruin has a question for us. What would you say is one of the big downsides for working for Microsoft? What do you think is a drawback? The bubble.
Yeah, the bubble is definitely it's I always thought, especially in the dead of winter, you drive, you park underground, you go up to an office, you come back down, you work a lot, and it's dark again. And so between, that and just being all consuming, and they do everything. You could live at Microsoft. It is a good thing to get out of once in a while, and it's a good thing. But it's a good thing to get out of once or twice.
Now, I also hear folks refer to the Redmond reality distortion field, and that take that concept that folks that work at Microsoft have their own view of things that isn't necessarily what the rest of the world sees, and that you can become clouded and thinking, oh my gosh, Windows Phone is the best phone ever. Meanwhile, there's a fruity phone being developed a couple states south that's not too bad either. So
yeah, no, the bubble is probably the hardest thing. And when you leave and you kind of think you're super important, and people treat you that way, and then you leave and nobody will return your phone calls, and you sort of become just you start over, which is great. It's great to get out of it, but it is kind of a rebuild when you leave. Unless you're
I always wish that that when we did Drugstore, one of the things we did by accident was have our developers listen in on like tech support calls. And I mean, Microsoft, the technology, people are living 5-10 years in the future compared to the rest of the world. And that's awesome because it gets us 5 to 10 years in the future. But some of the solutions proposed by Microsoft are almost comically impractical,
Yes.
as we found out doing the health stuff in particular. And it's kind of, it really, they missed some opportunities, I think, because of that. Certainly, recently with opening up to more platforms and doing that things, it's a different world, but it's still there. It's still there. Like, not everybody's going to run, asymmetric, encrypted, blah, 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 because they just don't have the horsepower to do it. And for FDA reasons or other reasons or just money reasons, they just aren't going to get there. And you got to figure out how to bridge the gaps.
I see a couple folks here chiming in and agreeing. Somebody thought Windows Phone was the best phone ever. Yes, and they went and bought another company to help make those phones. And I'm not going to go any further there. So we've been here about an hour, and I want to make sure, Sean, I want to ask you about, did you have any run-ins, any notable run-ins with executives that you can share a story about?
Well, I mean, we were talking about phones, and I did used to love, Jim Alchin was the most reactive dude ever when you'd bring anything that wasn't Windows around. And so that was super fun to do. But honestly, the best of those ever stories was when Peter and I were pitching the health idea to Bill and Steve, and it was in 2005, I guess, at the time, very end, and I feel remember there was an enormous snowstorm that knocked out power, and so there's no power to anything except for Steve and Bill's offices, and so there was an extension cord they ran into this conference room so we could have this meeting, so it's all sort of dark and dim.
Oh my goodness.
And we were telling, well, we think there's an opportunity in healthcare, and talking about lots of things, including health search, which I think, I will say we're vindicated. It's like one of the number one things people ever search for. But Bill thought it was the dumbest idea in the universe. And he pantomimed this long sort of one-man act of him getting shot and then going like, oh, I better search where I'm going to go to the hospital for. And then he like kind of limped himself in the near dark across the room. Yeah, Bill, I think that's kind of exactly how it's going to go down. What do you think? You're going to fund me? Pretty entertaining. Pretty entertaining. I've been called stupid by Bill more times than I can.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right.
But he did fund us, so hey, worked out.
All right. That's cool. That's very cool that it worked out. Another question that just came up here from MDE Bruin about career is, I think this isn't too bad to ask. Have we ever been invited to an interview just because you worked at Microsoft?
I mean, I probably only got my conversation at Adaptive because of Microsoft. That for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's
not in the more latter part of the career, but earlier days, I definitely got a lot of calls because of it.
I think there's something to be said. It's not so much because you work for Microsoft, but what you've done at Microsoft. If your name's attached to a big product, to a big feature, to a big marketing effort, right? Big sales process. And you could say, yeah, I participated. I helped drive X billion dollars of sales, or I helped produce $1 billion product X. That is going to get you a resume noticed and callback. Not, oh yeah, I worked at Microsoft.
That's fair. That's very true.
So,
but it is true that the older I get, the more I realize people hire within their networks, and so the more you know people, and the Microsoft network is huge, and so the more you are entrenched in it, the more likely you are to get opportunities thrown your way.
So as Dee Dee said, it's all about the more you know.
I was hoping you would do that.
Anyway, and Sean, G. Morton points out that when Bill criticizes you like that, it's his way of respecting your idea.
Right?
I would take it every day. I am not a guy who idol worships. I don't think, but I've never known a person who can. I work on something for 6 months. I describe it to him in 10 minutes, and he figures out where I effed it up every time. It's remarkable. It is just remarkable.
Brilliant folks that we're talking about, and if clips make it back to them, much respect to those folks and the work that they've done at building Microsoft, putting together a good chunk of this industry. You know, yeah, they can poke holes in some of these things quickly. It's amazing. So, well, gosh, Dee Dee, this has been terrific. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot from talking to Sean, and my gosh, I'm looking now for better places to eat on campus next time I'm out there visiting instead of 42. So
I know this has been so fun. Thank you for hosting this. And
absolutely, it was a great time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, cool. I've had a great time doing this, and yeah, we've got to do this again. And we're talking about doing another one. Is this June we're looking at here?
Yeah, we're looking at June, and thanks to the Alumni Network for sponsoring this and helping us get this off the ground, and we're going to keep doing it.
All right.
And Sean, thank you. It's so fun to talk to you.
I love catching up. And amazing to see some of those names too. It's really cool.
Oh my gosh, yes. Chat room. It's been amazing seeing some of you and some of the ideas that you've shared, some of the things that you're reminiscing. Really appreciate you chiming in. And when we come back and do this, we'll announce and pass information around about next one of these that we run. All right. I think it's time to wrap up. I think it's time to close things down. So I'm going to say goodbye to Dee Dee and Sean here, and I'm going to wrap it up over on the other scene. Great seeing you.
Thank you.
Take care. And I need to make sure I hit the buttons correctly here so I get back to the right place. All righty. We'll see you. And I'm going back over here. Really cool stuff. I always enjoy and appreciate talking to folks that have been around this industry longer than we have, that can share their experience, because that's how we learn. That's how we can improve and take those next steps that they've led us to, and do some really cool things with technology and with those companies that we work at. Let me get ready. Let's get set up for a raid here. Let's connect you to another great streamer here on the big Twitch TV network. Come on, start playing the music. I clicked the button. When you click the button to play the music and it just kind of hangs, it's like, really? There it is. There's the music. Let me set up for a big raid here on the Twitch TV network. Get you connected, like I said, to another Twitch technology streamer that we can have a good time with. And I'm taking a look here. I think we're going to connect with. Do I see? Is he really streaming? Let's connect you with my good friend Christos over on the Microsoft Developer Channel. Let's get you connected over there. We're going to read Microsoft Developer. These are folks that are teaching all about security today over there on the Microsoft Developer Channel. Great experience, great time for you to learn. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you again to Dee Dee and Sean. Thank you to Microsoft Alumni Network for joining us for this today. Patch and Switcher here. Oh my goodness, look at that. Thank you so much. They host another show over there on the Channel 9 network. We're going to get ready. We're going to go raid our friends on the Microsoft Developer Network. Developer Channel. Here we go. Get ready, sit right back, and we'll be right there to join Christos in just a second. Take care. I'll see you on Sunday right back here for more live coding. Take care. Are you kidding? Okay, that just happened.